Good morning, everybody. I'm here with Linda Daruvala this morning. Good morning, Linda.
Good morning.
Many of you know Linda. She's a member at St Albans. But Linda, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi. Yes, really pleased to be with you this morning. Thank you, Richard, for asking me. Linda, married to Jung, and we've lived in Beacon Hill over 30 years now in the same house, same road. And we've kind of dipped in and out of St Albans over a number of years, but now we are fully fledged card-carrying members of St Alban's Hindhead and loving it all. We have our two sons, Pete, who's a pilot with British Airways and thankfully still a pilot with British Airways, and Simon, who's a drummer and teaches drumming and also plays in a band. So that's the four of us.
Great, thanks, Linda. Are you from this area originally?
No, I was born in London. But then moved to Dorset when I was 10. So I always feel that I'm a Dorset girl, really.
Okay.
And all my childhood and teenage years really were in Dorset, and just such a beautiful county to grow up in. Very, very happy childhood. Yeah, I'm an only child, so my mum and dad really doted on me, and I've always been very grateful and blessed for that.
Oh, thanks, Linda. So tell us a little bit about your faith. And in particular, we're thinking about spiritual well-being. What are the things that nurture your faith and nurture your spiritual life? Yeah,
I think everyone's spirit is nurtured differently. For me, whether it's because I'm an only child or normally quite a quiet person, I do like to be on my own with God. That's not for everybody. But sometimes people find silence quite intimidating, or just sitting there with nothing intimidating. I do like to have my Bible with me. I do like to have complete peace, maybe to be in a beautiful area, excuse me. And then just to sit with God. I think I first learned to love silence on Holy Island in Northumberland. I went up there with some issues to pray about. I thought I'd spend a week on Holy Island living with the community who live there, and just go onto the beach and out onto the moors and pray. And I would sit on Holy Island looking at this beautiful sea and hills and say to God, I'm going to pray. And I felt God say, no, don't pray, just sit. And so I kept sitting and just looking out and thinking and reflecting and being with him. And then I'd say, right, I'll pray now. And he'd say, no, don't pray, just sit. And through that, I've learned just to sit, to be really quiet, to think, to contemplate. And as I'm looking out at a beautiful view, God often speaks into that and tells me things. And you always know it's God. You learn to recognize the voice of God because he's always loving. And he's always encouraging, and he's always saying how much he loves us, cares for us, protects us, knows us. It's never condemnation. It's always full of grace and mercy and love. And I really crave those times, even when the boys were little and we'd go on holiday for a week. John would always give me a day off, if you like. He would take the boys down to the beach so that I could have a day just being on my own. And most of that day was spent just prayer walking, if you like, with God, just spending time in the quiet. That's what feeds my faith. And also I found reading the Bible, I love the Passion Translation, and it's so visual, and I love visual things. And I can read a word of scripture and I can just imagine being there. I've written one just a few days ago. I was reading about the resurrection. And in the Passion Translation, it said, the angel rolled away the stone and sat on it. And I thought, well, I can just imagine the angel sitting on the stone, rubbing his hands. Okay, job done. Jesus is resurrected. The women have gone to tell the disciples. And he just looks around at the scene. And it's that. So I'm inspired. Yeah, I'm inspired. And I have to write. It has to come out.
Thank you, Linda. So just taking that on a bit, out of these quiet times, something very practical has come, and you've just mentioned about writing. So tell us what's sort of come about through your quiet times, and just tell us a little bit about particularly what's happened over the last few weeks and months.
Yes, well, over the first lockdown, as many of us did, we started decluttering all the paperwork. I was going through all my notes from seminars and conferences and kind of choosing some to throw away, choosing some to keep. And I found a lot of my poetry from the last 10 years, really. And I just set them aside, thinking, well, I won't throw those away. I'll just put them in a separate box. And so many people over these last years have said to me, oh, you should publish. Because I often send out a poem at Easter or a poem about coronavirus, and people say, you should publish, you publish. And it just seemed, okay, I will collate them together. I'll look at a publisher that I'd heard of before, Christian publisher. And I prayed, before I pressed that button to send the manuscript, I prayed that if these poems were of any use to God and his kingdom, that they would be accepted. And if they were rejected, then I would just to say they were just for me and God. And to my utter amazement, they were accepted by Onwards and Upwards, the publisher, who wanted to throw the whole weight of their marketing and publicity behind them. And the poems vary, some about Advent, some about Easter, some about coronavirus. Just times when I've sat at Frensham Pond or in the woods or amongst the bluebells at Hindhead, just sat, and then I've just written what I felt. And poetry captures words so easily. You can just throw words down on the paper, just what you're feeling and sensing and seeing, and it becomes a poem. It's much easier to write than a prose, if you like. I used to teach poetry in school, and again, the children found it very easy. Just throw down words that you're thinking, and then develop it a little bit. Yeah, and as a result of that, I have now a book published on the 1st of February called Selah. And Selah means pause and reflect. You find it in the Psalms, where you say a little bit of the Psalm, and it says Selah, which is pause, reflect back on what you've just read. And I feel that's what I do in my spiritual life. I pause and I reflect on what I'm seeing, what God is saying to me.
Well, thank you, Linda. I do happen to have a copy of your book here. So how clearly that's coming across. But we'll put details of the book. And yes, I mean it's a lovely book. It's beautifully put together. The poems are wonderful. And I really commend this book to everyone. So we'll put details up at how they can get hold of a copy. Do you want to mention how folk can get hold of a copy, obviously at the moment, and then when hopefully when lockdown begins to open up? Yeah, funny enough, I have a copy too. Yeah, I'm immensely proud of how they've done it. It's just my poems, but captured in this beautiful cover and design, and I'm thrilled. Selah is now available obviously online from all bookshops, Waterstones, W.H. Smith's, Amazon, your local bookshop or Christian bookshop. Do order them, keep them going. They are floundering a little bit. And internationally on Amazon as well and other websites. And I'm hoping that when bookshops open that I might be able to pop in and do some poetry readings or some signings. And to bring, again, customers back into the bookshops, especially Hazelmere Bookshop. You know, let's get them up and running again. And if I can help to do that, that would be great. But as I've said, some of the books I give, some of the books I sell, just to bless people, really, that they can be blessed. If they know God already, then they can go deeper and just imagine those scenes. And if they don't know God already, it might point them to him and just how real he is. You know, he does speak to us. It's a dialogue. It's not a monologue. And he cares for us so much. Great. Well, thank you, Linda. That's a lovely way for us to end. So we're going to end our little interview now, but you very kindly agreed to read one of the poems to us. And so we're going to sit and listen to that. Thanks for your time, Linda.
This poem is called Contemplation. Raw, simple, no embellishments, in the quiet, alone. Time pauses, one to one, eye to eye, mind to mind, heart to heart, vulnerable, open, real, exposed to a God I trust with my life, to speak, to seek, to lift, to despair, to cry, to pray, to understand, to ask, to learn, to encounter, to find peace, to breathe, to feed, to drink, to satisfy, to acknowledge, to appreciate, to magnify. Time alone, well spent.